to the 2022 World Elder Abuse Awareness Day event.
Thank you.
By several of the Florida areas on aging. So we have Elder Source, we have Area Agency on Aging, Palm Coast, Palm Beach and Treasure Coast. We have Senior Connection Center. We have Area Agency on Aging, Southwest Florida. We have Area Aging, Pasco, Pinellas. We have Broward County and the Advantage Aging Solution. So that's everyone who's bring this event together. And I appreciate them in planning and helping put this all together. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So again, just welcome. We're excited to have everyone here. I'm just gonna go through a couple of housekeeping rules so that the meeting runs smoothly. We're all on the same page and we know where this meeting is headed. Okay, so I have a couple of housekeeping rules. So one, just session is being recorded. It's being recorded so that those who attend can have access to the recording later. We do send out a follow-up email and information after the meeting containing the video recording, the slides, and any other information or resources sent by our speakers. We also ask that you please remain on mute, that your cameras are turned off. If you turn on your video to speaker view, that works best. You'll be able to focus on just the speaker. All questions, we are asking that you hold them to the very end. If you have questions as someone is presenting, feel free to put them in the chat box. We have people from the AAAs watching the chat box, and we will get to those questions at the end of the presentation. We have set aside time just to go Q&A. Also, we ask that you just be patient with us due to the number of attendees. We currently have 142 people on this call. So due to that, we ask that you be patient if there be any technical difficulties. It happen, but we hope for the best. And also there is the option to turn on the captions through the Zoom feature if you need access to those. So we are going to go ahead and get into our first speaker, who is Miss Ivonne. I'm going to ask that we get into her introductions, and I'm going to turn my camera off. And if you are not the speaker and if you're not the person introducing her, please turn off your camera and go on mute at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. I'm introducing Ivonne Carmona. She is a human.
Okay. You're there you go, Sarah. You're
okay. I'll start over. Good morning. I'm introducing Ivonne Carmona. She is a Human Services Program Specialist for the Department of Children and Families Adult Protective Services. She has worked with DCF for over 20 years. She was a child protection investigator for 13 years in Orlando before moving with her family to the Tampa area, where she transferred to Adult Protection Services. With Ivonne's dedication, hard work, and passion to help others, she was promoted to program specialist in the Tampa Suncoast area. She provides onboarding orientation trainings for new hires, pre-service trainings, field training, community trainings, and quality control of open investigations. She also mentors new and seasoned staff and provides support to effectively strengthen their skills as they reach out in their respective communities. Ivonne has earned her degrees in management of human resources with a focus on facilitating trainings. As a behavior analyst, she has used this skill in working with staff and presenting state policies as they are updated. And now I'll turn it over to Ivonne. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Ivonne Carmona, and I have been working with the department for many years, and years prior to that, I have been working with low-income population. So let's proceed with our presentation. Okay. I want to first thank everyone for inviting me to speak here. If you have any questions, again, I want to reiterate to place those questions in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. How many of you have called the hotline or collaborated with an adult protective investigator with the Department of Children and Families? Please use your chat box to make any comments. The goals for this session are to increase your awareness of the mandatory reporting requirements, to provide an overview of Florida Adult Protective Services, and to improve communication between you as professionals, the Florida Abuse Hotline, and other APS professionals. Next. Again, this is just presenting myself. Next. So the possible indicators of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. What, how, who. The behaviors of the victims we always are observing, behaviors of family or caregivers. The dynamics contribute to the abuse. It is very important for us to know the dynamics between the person who is the victim and the person who is the caregiver. Sometimes it influences a lot. Who? Well, often family members, trusted friends, and caregivers are the perpetrators. Okay? So we are constantly looking at all of these dynamics. Many people have asked us, with what authority do we have to investigate any form of abuse, neglect, or threatened harm? Chapter 415, which is in the Florida statutes, requires the Department of Children and Families to conduct an investigation of all reports, alleged abuse, neglect, or exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Next, please. So these are the different types of maltreatments. Abuse, which is done by a second-party person. Neglect could be a second-party person, or self-neglect, which is one of the highest rates we have. Exploitation is always done by a second party. Next. Alleged maltreatments by type. In the year of 2018 and 2019 maltreatments, 43% was neglect. 25% is okay, and 15% is abuse, and 17% is exploitation. Next. The meaning of abuse means that willful act or threatened act by a relative, caregiver, or household member, which causes or is likely to cause significant impairment to a vulnerable adult's physical, mental, and emotional health. Abuse includes omissions. Neglect is the failure or omission on part of the caregiver and vulnerable adult to provide care, supervision, services necessary to maintain physical and mental health of the vulnerable adult.
There we go.
Okay, abuse means any willful act or threatened act by the relative, caregiver, or household member which causes or is likely to cause significant impairment to vulnerable adults' physical, mental, or emotional health. Abuse includes acts of omission. Have any of you all called in a report that was not accepted by the hotline? Well, there are reasons for that they haven't been accepted. For example, you'll notice the definition of abuse has a degree of relationship, meaning a relative, caregiver, or household member must be alleged to have perpetrated the abuse. And from this definition, you may also see that it may be an act or threatened act which cause or would likely cause significant impairment. So there is a possibility that you may have called the hotline, but it didn't fit the criteria necessary for a report to be generated. Next. Next, please. exploitation. Exploitation stands in a position of trust and confidence, or knows and should know the victim lacked the capacity to consent or refuse services. One of the issues we have is that we get many reports calling in reference to the yard man or someone who provided services that took advantage of the victim. Because there is no degree of relationship, then we cannot accept a report of that matter. It would be more of a police matter. Exploitation means knowingly by deception or intimidation, using or obtaining or attempting to obtain, to use the adult's funds, assets, or property with the intent to temporarily or permanently deprive the adult of use, benefit, or possession of funds, assets, or property for the benefit of someone else other than the vulnerable adult. And we may find this with family members, caregivers, and people who they have entrusted close by. So exploitation is one of those things that we encounter constantly, but in most parts, the department does not get involved in the sense of criminal activity. If we feel that exploitation is a verified findings, then we will include law enforcement to take care of the criminal issues. What we are there for is to ensure that there is, quote unquote, no more bleeding financially. Next. So the investigation process. So you call the hotline, and the hotline will be asking you several questions. If it fits the criteria for a report to be generated, then they will assign a case number to it, and they will then dispatch it to the jurisdiction it belongs to. Once the hotline receives the information, it creates a report, and then once it's dispatched to the area, it's assigned to an investigator. All right, the investigator will then receive the report and start commencement activities. And that is calling the reporter, checking background. Do we have prior cases, DCF cases? Was services involved? Were they connected before? So before we walk into the home, we pretty much have an idea of what is going on. And then we will start looking to see if we can determine indicators of abuse, neglect, self-neglect, or exploitation is present. So once we go into the home, into the facility, or wherever it is that we are looking for the victim, we will start gathering all of this information and bringing it back to the office so that we can go ahead and generate a report. We assess the safety and the risk of any further harm. We will also determine the need for services. So once we have documented this, that we have talked, we have investigated all that we need to do, then we will write up a report and assess the risk. And we are very much into providing intervention services. Next, please. So who are the partnerships that we have? We have state agencies, Agency for Healthcare Administration, Agencies for Persons with Disabilities, Department of Elder Affairs, Long-Term Care Ombudsman, Office of Attorney General, Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, and of course, law enforcement. We may have concurrent investigations if there is a possibility of a crime may have occurred. So who are the perpetrators? In any type of in-home verified reports, 40.95% is either the son or the daughter. Spouse is 11%, and other relatives 11%, and it goes all the way down. Okay. When we find those who are, no, next please. Who are the perpetrators in the institutional verified reports? 84.23% is an institutional employee. 7% may be the institution, facility, the owner, the operator. And sometimes we do have unknowns, people who we have no idea who may have perpetrated this against the victim. Okay. Next, please. So the services provision, self-determination. DCF must place the fewest possible restrictions on the individual's personal liberty and right for self-determination. If this person that we have gone to see has the capacity to make their own decisions we must respect whatever that person may decide to do, even if it may not be what is best for his benefit, for his care and protection. However, we must, if he says no, it is no. Constitutional rights. We must respect the constitutional rights and ensure the consistency with due process. Partnerships. We do have many partnerships and community partnerships, and it all depends on the area that you live in. Since we work in Suncoast area, the availability of community partners in Pasco County is totally different than the partners that we may encounter down in Lee County or in the Tampa area, Hillsborough County. So we do have partnerships that is available in the area. The most common, meals deliveries, home health providers, and adaptive equipment providers. Service provisions. Home care for disabled adults. These are services provided to 1,120 Floridians at this time, 473 individuals on a statewide wait list. Community care for disabled adults, which is services to 274,000 Floridians. And then we have those on a statewide wait list. And we are all aware that who works with the elderly, that the wait list varies. Okay, and they're constantly checking it. Mandatory reporting. Any person who has reasonable cause to believe that a vulnerable adult is being abused, neglected, or exploited. Now, anyone, and it doesn't mean a professional, anyone who suspects abuse, neglect, or the person's being exploited needs to call in a report. A person who knowingly and willfully fails to report a case of known or suspected abuse, neglect, or exploitation of a vulnerable adult, or who knowingly and willfully prevents another person from doing so, commits a misdemeanor, second degree, punishable by statute 775.082 or statute 775.083. There are many ways of accessing the Florida Abuse Hotline. That is through the 1-800-96-ABUSE. We have the website. We have another phone number that is available, and TDD. Assisting adult protective investigation. Please provide accurate contact information. It's really essential that the adult protective investigator contact you to ensure the accuracy of the report, as well as additional details. If you are able to provide the name, date of birth, possibly the social security number, the correct address where this person is located. Provide as much details as possible. Just think of the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. If there's any information that you may want, please contact me at the following address. That is my current phone number, and you're available to call at any time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ivonne, for the presentation. It was very informing. We do apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're going to keep moving right along. Thank you for your patience. So our next speaker is Donna Moses, and I believe Patricia will be introducing her.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Henderson with Senior Connection Center. We are the area agency on aging serving Hardy, Highlands, Hillsborough, Manatee, and Polk counties. It is my pleasure today to introduce Donna Moses. Donna is the lead member victim advocate in risk management with Suncoast Credit Union, where she has served for over 39 years. Over half her career has been in risk management. In her current role, Donna works closely with law enforcement, the Department of Children and Families, and other agencies to assist and protect senior Suncoast members from financial, mental, and physical exploitation and abuse. Donna has conducted numerous trainings, seminars for staff, as well as the public. She works to bring much needed attention to the topic of scams and financial exploitation of our seniors. She also collaborates with the marketing and community outreach teams at Suncoast to enhance the credit union's initiatives serving seniors. Donna, thank you for being here today.
You're welcome, Patricia. So I'm going to jump right in because I have only about 15 minutes and I have a lot to say in a short amount of time. My name is Donna Moses and I work at Suncoast Credit Union. I have now been at Suncoast a total of 40 years. Since 2014, we have dedicated a special team to scams and various things that affect our senior members. Everything I'm going to talk about today, please understand it's not just a Suncoast Credit Union issue. This is a nationwide, every financial institution is having these type of issues. I'm going to just cover the first top 4 scams, 4 or 5, and give you a little bit of information. And then I'm going to give you some real life stories of actual cases I have worked. So maybe you can understand how someone is manipulated and coerced to do something that they normally would not do. We have the romance scams, which again, that's where you meet someone online, every dating website, Facebook, Instagram. There are good people on all of those sites, but unfortunately there are also fake profiles. And that's where a lot of our members reach out and find out, and they have the online boyfriends and girlfriends. Tech support scams. Those are huge right now. If you receive any text messages, any emails, any pop-ups that look like they come from your financial institution, Amazon, PayPal, someone impersonating a representative from any of these places, even your financial institution, and they're asking you to do something that you normally wouldn't do. Send money, wire money, withdraw cash. Please do not do that. This is huge right now. Suncoast has been hit hard with this. Every financial institution has, and there's big losses. The members lose a lot of money for those. Sweepstakes lottery scams. Those, I'm sure you've heard about those. People say if you haven't entered the lotto, how do you win? Some of the scammers are telling our senior members everybody was automatically entered if you pay your bills on time and you have good credit. So you've got to realize the scammers always have something to say, something to put a little doubt in the senior's mind and kind of continue to manipulate them. The grandparent scam, if they call and say, hey, grandma, it's me, I'm in trouble, a family member's in trouble, they need you to send money right away, please reach out to your family member or your grandchildren prior to doing that. They do tell you don't talk to anybody, you know, you're going to jeopardize their case. But again, that's all in an effort to get you to send money or do something without telling anybody. They try to isolate you so you don't say anything. So let me just jump into a couple of these stories that we've had so you can maybe understand a little better how financial institutions are struggling with these type of things. So I'm going to give you an elderly gentleman that I had. He met a female online. Okay, I'm going to call him Mr. Moses. I'm going to use my own name, right? Mr. Moses came in to get a loan for $2,000. And he basically said that he needed funds to send to his fiance who was going to be coming here from a different country. He had already depleted some funds in an account and an investment account that he recently had. Now, this one was pretty upfront because he came right in and said that he needed to send some money to his fiance. I believe she was in Malaysia, and she was coming here to marry him. So our frontline staff actually talked to him a little bit, said you need to speak to someone in the back office because he insisted that he was not being scammed. He had been talking to her for a year and she was coming here. So I got him on the phone, spoke to him probably about 20 minutes and gave him all of these examples, right? They're supposed to come. They get delayed at the airport. Something happens on the way to the airport. They can't travel because of COVID. There's all these promises and you have to send them money. He stated that he had sent her about $20,000 probably in the last 30 days. From another financial institution, but he is going to get paid back when she gets here, right? And he, again, throughout this 20-minute conversation, I appreciate you guys asking me this. I know what I'm doing. I'm not being scammed. However, continuing to talk to him and giving him more examples, and I can't cover all those with you today. I wish I could. He finally says, so you do think that I'm being scammed? And I said, yes, sir, absolutely. And he says, well, I'm not going to get the loan. I'm going to wait till she gets here. He goes, but what do you think? He goes, I text her a copy of my driver's license, front and back. I gave her all of my personal information because she stated that she had to put me on her documents as beneficiary in case anything happened to her while she traveled. So we have people that are doing that, right? Sending copies of their driver's license front and back, giving all their personal information to someone that they believe is really coming here to marry them, that they believe is going to direct deposit funds into their account for sweepstakes winnings, and then they become a victim of identity theft. My biggest thing through all of this also, you all, please don't think this can never happen to someone that you know, someone in your family. don't ever get the attitude that I'm too smart to fall for a scam, because I hear that. I just heard that from another member that I had yesterday. He was really upset with me that we were not going to send a wire to Turkey for him to be able to help somebody get a plane that he was going to get $150,000 for. He kept telling me all of his background, everything that he's done. He's been in the military, and he was really upset to the point that he's going to close his account because we would not send the wire. I'm going to give you another example. Had a female. She came into the branch to withdraw $40,000 cash. She withdrew the cash. She left. She came back the next day to get another $40,000. The branch asked her some questions. What is the purpose of the withdrawal? She was buying a car for her nephew. They stated, well, the purpose yesterday you stated was you purchased yourself a car. And she said, I did. I got it from a friend, but now my nephew needs the car, so I need to take out the $40,000. They got her into an office so I could speak to her. 30 minutes on the phone with her, talking to her about scams, giving her examples. They coach you what to say. Sometimes they tell you that your phones are tapped. Sometimes they tell you that, you're being watched. I went through all these scams and she was really upset. She said, it's really none of your business. This is my money. My nephew is starting a new job and he has to have a car, and you're taking up my time asking me all these questions. So in talking to her, I told her, I'm going to note your account here, everything that we said. I did tell her that we would have to order the cash, that we would not be able to give it to her. And then I kind of followed in with the last thing about people impersonating employees, whether it's at your financial institution. I said, sometimes they impersonate people at Suncoast or whatever financial institution you're at. And they'll tell you that they need you to conduct large transactions to be able to catch the person. Make sure you don't say anything to the branch. Make sure you don't say anything to the people at the, at the office, because then that's going to hinder the investigation. So she got silent when I said that, and the branch manager actually said out loud, because I had her on speakerphone in an office, a private office, she said, do you have someone on your phone, Miss Moses? And she held the phone up, right? So I said out loud, I said, well, that's typical, because sometimes the scammers will stay on the phones with the victim, no matter where they're sending them, to do a wire or Western Union, at Walmart, or to the bank, to make sure they're doing and saying exactly what they are told to do. And then also they'll tell them, let's just make sure anybody gives you a hard time, right? So as soon as she handed the phone to the branch manager, that person disconnected. I asked the member, can you tell me who that was? She said that it was an employee at Suncoast. And I said, I assure you, no one from Suncoast would be listening in to a phone call. And she said, well, they said that someone here was taking money. I had to conduct these transactions, and that I was not supposed to say anything to anyone. I said, so the story about the nephew and the car, all that was not true. She says, no, but that's what they told me to say. She goes, do you think I've lost my money? And I said, well, can you tell me, what did you do with the $40,000 you took out yesterday? She placed the money in a box. She was instructed by the FBI agent to put it in a box and proceed to a Walmart in a specific area, and a courier would meet her there, and they would give her a passcode. They are going to take that money and secure her money until the investigation is through, and then they would return it back to her. So the $40,000 that she took out the previous day, she had met a courier in a Walmart parking lot and handed the money to the person, and off they went. So she came back in again, talking to her that day, was to get another $40,000. But the degree that it took for me to finally get her to tell me what was going on, all the examples, I mean, I went through various things in different scams to finally get her to tell me, because she was really upset. And 10 minutes into the conversation, if I would have said, listen, Ms. Moses, I'm going to make a note that I talked to you about scams. I really believe that something's going on, but it is your money. And if you want the cash, we'll have to go ahead and give it to you. But if we would have given her that cash, she would have lost an additional $40,000. So understanding these stories that I'm giving you, 8 out of 10 of my cases, our members have capacity. They understand what's going on, right? They're coming in, they're not being truthful to the frontline staff, and not because they're bad people. It's because they're being manipulated and coerced. They really believe the person that they're in love with, and they are not being truthful to obtain money or get whatever transactions conducted that they're being requested to. I had a 72-year-old person that came in and took out, an elderly lady. She was 84. She came upon a report. She had written $350,000 in checks from her money market in about a 4-month period. Something came up. We looked into it. I called her. She stated that she was paying her friends back that she owed money to. I asked her to give me the names. And again, I'm very kindly speaking to these people, right? Because I know that they're victims. Can you give me the names of the people that you wrote the check to? She could give me 2 names. She could not give me the other 2, which was a problem because the checks were anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 each. And I did express that to her. I said, it's kind of an issue for me, Ms. Moses, if you can't give me the names of these people that you've written the large checks to. And again, none of your business. It's my money. I have people that I'm paying back. So I talked to her about various scams. She said, nope, none of that's happening. None of it's happening. I told her, well, your account's going to be reviewed and I'm going to get back with you tomorrow. Very upset. Why are you reviewing my account? It's none of your business. I said, again, just trying to help you out. I do feel like you're being scammed, right? So I did. The next day, she had a $20,000 check present on her account, which we returned as a refer to maker. We just send it back temporarily until we can review the account. And I called her and spoke to her again. She literally hung up on me and said that she was going to take all her money out of the credit union and move it elsewhere where people would not get into her business. Actually had a friend of mine from the Secret Service go out and talk to her. He spoke to her for an hour. And at the end of the conversation, besides telling him it was none of his business, she finally said that Donna Moses at that credit union returned my check. She goes, and I had the money to cover that. She goes, but that was my last payment to get my $8.5 million direct deposited into my account. Now, I know all this sounds kind of absurd, right? People will sit around and they'll tell me, oh my gosh, I can't believe people would do that. Nobody in my family would do that. I'm telling you all, these scammers are professional actors. They know exactly what to say, how to say it, to manipulate someone that you don't think is going to do something, and they do. They're coming in applying for loans. They are cash advancing off their credit cards. Just like that member, she cannot claim fraud on those checks. She wrote those checks. She mailed them out to people. Now, the people that she mailed those checks to, 3 of those people were elderly victims who thought they were getting the money from an attorney or from their online girlfriend's business partner. So the money is being laundered from victim to victim in different states in various organizations. So it's very important that you understand that, right? Because a lot of times people will say, well, just find out where she mailed the checks or find out where they sent the wire, because that's the person that you should be going after. And that is not necessarily true. Again, they're sending money victim to victim, different states, different financial institutions. The people are willingly participating. In these cases that I have, they're willingly participating, not knowing really what's going on, right? But just believing the perpetrator that they've been talking to. It happens all day. And our frontline staff here at Suncoast, we have a team dedicated for this, for elderly scams and victim accounts, right? We have a senior advisory board that also helps us determine what is out in the community that we can help our members with and help people with, as far as our flyers and the type of things that we do. And then our frontline, just last year, all of our frontline staff had to complete the AARP Bank Safe training. And that training tells them what type of questions to ask. And our frontline staff is doing a really great job at asking questions. And again, this is not just at Suncoast, but our staff completed that training, but we get so much pushback, because if you're a senior listening to this right now, I am sure you're very protective of your money. And if someone at the bank starts asking you questions, you get really offended, right? Please understand that most financial institutions are asking questions to try to protect you. We're not trying to stall, not trying to tell you what to do. And I tell my members that every day when I talk to them. I have conversations like this probably 15 times a day, at least, in the branches where members are going in to conduct transactions. Family members will come in and say, you know, my mom got a $50,000 loan, or she wrote this check out. Why did you all let it clear? Why did you let my parents take out, you know, $10,000? That's not something they normally do. But we are asking questions and we're getting answers again. Home improvement. I'm helping out my family. I have dental. I have medical bills to pay. This is the information that they're being coached to tell the financial institution or anybody, right, to be able to get the money. And again, they're not being untruthful because they're bad people. They're just hopeful. They believe what's going on. They believe the person that they're talking to. Technology nowadays makes it very easy to scam people. You can make fake documents. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's a really good thing, but it's a really bad thing. Have somebody check the checker, right? Go out and talk to your family members, talk to your friends. Suncoast will come out and do presentations to any senior groups, 55 and up communities. If we can educate people, and you see it on the news, you see it in the paper, but most of my victims have that's not what's happening to me. I had a lady just last week. She's like, oh, I saw that on TV. I saw that on Dr. Phil, but that's not what's happening to me. She goes, I know this person's really coming here. When in turn, it is exactly what's happening to her, and full capacity. So, again, we're never going to stop all the fraud. I can tell you that I try to come to a peace with that, right? That we're never going to stop all this fraud. It's just constantly talking about it. And it's not just in the news and you seeing it in the paper. Talk to your family and friends about these stories that I've given you. Tell them how the money is moving, how people are being manipulated, what they're being told. A lot of times with the grandparents scam, they don't say, hey, Grandma, it's me, Donna. They say, hey, Grandma, it's me. I'm in some trouble, right? Oh, Donna, this does not sound like you. I had an elderly member that said, she said that. Donna, this doesn't sound like you. And she said, I know, Grandma, I broke my nose when I wrecked the car. That's why I sound different. So they always have an answer to manipulate them or tell them what to do. And please understand, again, these cases, most of my cases right now, the money's not being stolen out of the members' accounts. They are willingly taking the funds from their accounts and sending it out. I have people that are 80 to 85 years old going up to Bitcoin machines and putting money into Bitcoin machines per the person that they're speaking to. The romance scams are the hard ones. The people are in love. They really believe that they're coming here. They're out of the country. They're on an oil rig. They're widowed. It's a typical scam. But let me jump back to the lady with the person on the phone. Anytime I talk to a member in the branch now, that is one of my first questions after verifying their information. Do you have anyone on your phone that's listening into this conversation? I have to start asking that now because I did not know that that person was listening in. She did not offer the information. So the scammers are hearing what questions we're asking. They hear us asking, how do you access your account, Ms. Moses? Various different questions. Can you verify information? And they hear me talking about the scams of what the scammers are telling them to say. So once they hear that, now they're going to start changing up the questions and the things that they're telling the victims. So that's a question. Do you have someone on the phone listening into what I'm saying? Again, it's not just Suncoast. So that way the scammers hear what we're asking. So next time they have a victim come in, or if they have another victim they're sending in to get cash, they'll give them a different story to say. But most of the time, again, it's home improvement, dental, medical. We get a lot of it's none of your business. I had one lady say she was going to get an attorney if we didn't give her money or if we didn't send the wire. Not my goal to have someone do that, but I knew she was being scammed. And I said, and if you want to do that, you certainly can. And she did. We got information from an attorney. We forwarded it to our legal counsel. The next day, we got an email saying that he no longer represented her because she did not tell him everything that was going on. She just said that we refused to send a wire for her. So again, it's really hard. If you guys have any questions or anything at the end, I'm sure my information's there. You can send me an email, but please talk about this constantly. Talk about to your family. Have somebody checking the checker, and don't think that you can't fall for a scam, right? Because everybody can, depending on their vulnerability or what's going on at the time. All right. I hope that helped.
Okay, thank you, Donna. That was very informative. Those stories were very, very good to tell us and let us know this interesting things you told us there, what people are actually doing and following for. Those very good to know and be aware of. And as Donna said, don't ever think that it couldn't happen to you or that someone in your, couldn't have this happen to them. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to keep moving right along. We have one more speaker before we do our Q&A. It is Jay Todras, but I'm going to have Sierra go ahead and introduce him for us.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Sierra, and I'm going to be introducing Jay Todras. He's the Deputy Regional Director for Region 2 of Seniors versus Crime through the Attorney General's Office. He's going to be talking a little bit about an overview of Seniors versus Crime, their program, and some of the common scams that he's encountered doing that work. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to him.
Okay, thank you, Sierra, and welcome everybody. I'm not going to be able to cover all the possible scams that are out there, but I will touch upon some of them. Um, some of them have been discussed already by Donna. I'll just speak of those briefly as well. But as an overview, I just want to let everybody know we're all aware of scams. People are warning us about these uh, different variations of different scams every day. Scams go through cycles. In my prior life, I was with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, just like smuggling. Uh, Today, they try this method until there's a lot of heat in placed on them, and then they change the methodology to the next type of scam, and they keep moving around until it goes full circle. So the scams take many different forms. I've been with Seniors versus Crime going on 9 years. I was in the Sun City Center office and the Lakeland office, and scams take many different forms. Um, Everything from door-to-door vacuum cleaner sales, online car sales, lottery scams, publishers clearinghouse scams, solar power system sales, um, and of course, your friendly local tree cutter who knocks on your door and tells you that he's working on Miss Jones down the block and he happens to be here and he's available. So he sees that, it's hurricane season, you have 4 trees for $2,000. He'll be happy to do some yard work, chop down your trees for $2,000, which you, of course, will pay in advance. And our tree cutter will do 10 minutes of work, and that's the last you're going to see of him. So before we move on to some of the other types of scams we have, let's touch upon who we are, where we started, and when. We'll mention these scams, and lastly, we'll have our contact information so that those who need us can find us. So, Seniors versus Crime started 30 years ago, 1989, in South Florida, in the Delray Beach area. There's still a large concentration of seniors, as PSA 8 and 10 know. But back then, there were so many scams abounding that the Attorney General set up a task force to identify um, possible programs to help the seniors. And they set up storefront offices where seniors could come in and speak with other seniors to help find a possible solution and, of course, try to get some money back. That initial program was so successful. As a result, the program has grown exponentially. And we're happy to say it's still here with us today, and we are able to help many, many people. Next. So where are we today? Well, I'm proud to say in 2022, we're back. One thing that I can speak of here proudly, we have all experienced the pandemic. During the pandemic, our workload increased about 3 times, including price gouging of personal protective equipment and such, and every other conceivable type of scam you could think of. Although we lost 2/3 of our volunteer staffing, so the work had to continue on a shoestring and just a skeleton crew of folks who were working from home. So we're happy to say the work has continued. And what we're proud to say also is that as a result of the work we do, Seniors versus Crime in the last year recovered over $880,000 cash back to our seniors. Okay, there are not many organizations that can say that, and we're proud that we can. We also recovered close to $2 million in realized gain, which would be credit recovered back to the seniors who have put money out and not received the services that they were promised. So that's a big milestone for us. Um, as you can see in this photo, as part of our moving forward in the post-pandemic era, we're opening more offices and we're always looking for volunteers. I know many of you are engaged in many challenging endeavors. So, you know, we put this out to everybody. You may know somebody because this is a wonderful and rewarding endeavor. There's nothing better than giving back and through your efforts, getting somebody's money back, okay, or getting services recovered that they paid for. So we highly regard this endeavor. So next, okay. This is the map, which covers all of the offices that we have throughout the state. Much like the PSAs that we have it within the ADRC system, we are broken up into regions. There are 5 regions, and where you see the arrow for Sun City, we're opening our 8th office this year. So in orange, those are our locations. And as you can see, the other colored little icons, those are the other offices. There are offices in most counties so that the seniors who need to come to our offices in person can do that. So next. So who are the volunteers and where are they coming from? We're happy to say many of the volunteers that we have come from all walks of life, retired law enforcement, military. They could have been in sales. They could have been attorneys, social workers. Uh, it covers the whole gamut. We have everybody from all walks of life. And where that's helpful to us, some of these folks who may have been car salesmen in their prior life may be an expert in unwinding a bad car deal for our seniors. So all of this experience that the volunteers are bringing forward are greatly helpful to us in accomplishing what we need to do. So we call our volunteers senior sleuths. That started way back in 1989. We still call them senior sleuths. What do they do? Well, they're educators, investigators, mediators, and there's 2 things that we do not do. We are desktop investigators, meaning that we do everything online and by telephone. We can send letters on the Attorney General's letterhead. We progressively increase our stance, and we like to speak of the teeth. The teeth that we have is the fact that we are a project under the Florida Attorney General's office, and we have those resources in some cases where we need to reach back out to the senior protection team. Ashley Moody has enacted the senior protection team upon her tenure several years ago. It's a multidisciplinary group of statewide prosecutors, investigators, analysts, who together try to work on some of the toughest cases that we have. Next. Well, what we like to accentuate and in a nutshell here to explain what we do, and we explain this to our seniors right up front for several reasons. One of the reasons we explain that is we can never guarantee success, but using our resources and tools and experience, we do our best with the information given to us to try to accomplish resolution. So the primary cases that we're working are civil in nature, and that's differentiated from criminal cases. Although most of the seniors coming into our office or reaching out to us by any means online, through letters, or any other means, they will tell us that they know this is a crime and this person, this subject, needs to go to jail. And they want to do this and report it to us so it doesn't happen to anybody else. Well, the bar is a little high on establishing whether something is criminal or not. So we work on the civil cases. If a case is brought to us that appears to have the indicators of possibly being criminal, then we will assemble all the information, and we are co-located with sheriff's offices and police departments in many of the offices, so that we could just turn it directly over to a criminal investigator and they will make that determination. Next. Another role that we play and we speak of is that we can be advisors, but this could be important in advance. Where will this be helpful to our seniors? We'd love for some of the seniors to contact us in anticipation of making a large purchase before they go to buy a car. We've had many widows who come into us after the fact, and they bring the long, uh, you know, 24-inch page of the sales for the vehicle they purchased, and they didn't read it at the time. They read it later, several days later, and they want us to undo the deal. One of the worst cases I had in the car realm was a woman went in to get her oil changed. And these dealerships have a lovely waiting area with free coffee and TVs there and Wi-Fi, and it's just like home. Well, she sat down to wait for her car, and lo and behold, the salesman that sold her the car several months previously came over to her. The next thing she knows, he pulled up a nice candy blue convertible and sold her the car, which she did not need or want. And of course, it was progressively more expensive than what she was able to buy. And we had to do our best to try to unwind this deal for the senior. But the aggressiveness of the salesperson was really out there. So next. Okay, as investigators, again, desktop investigators, first thing is the 5 Ws: who, what, when, where, and why. One of the other presenters was mentioning that. That's key protocol in developing and identifying an issue first. We need written documentation, sales contracts, um, scope of work, um, listing of promised work, anything in writing that could help us to use our resources to get money back or get the work completed. So next. So we speak of the contract, and this is the legal basis for the sale. Um, in many cases, we'll get the written contract. We'll go through it to see if there are any loopholes in there, any way out. Door-to-door sales can be negated. They can be canceled within 72 hours if somebody sends a letter back to the seller. Um, there are circumstances. So the contract is a key point in helping us to determine exactly what was purchased, and it helps us to determine the next steps. Next. Alarm systems are very prevalent. They'll get an 80-year-old or 90-year-old homeowner, and they'll sign them up for a 7-year contract for an alarm. We even had one that had an alarm already. They left it in place. The new company left the existing alarm in place and began to charge $50 a month for what they said was a new alarm. It was only through getting a third party to come out and identify exactly what work was done did we locate that. And these contracts are very, very hard to get out of. So next. Okay, collectively, these are amongst our most frequently seen scams today. They should ring a bell for many of you. We'll go over a few of those and what they are about. So next. It's not a secret to anybody. Florida, California, and New York vie for #1 for fraud. And of course, correspondingly, along with fraud always goes identity theft. That's part of the fraud. So we like to be positive here and proactive. Along those lines, we advocate that there are two things that could prevent almost all of the scams that our seniors have become a part of. Firstly, many of the scams come by telephone. Screen the telephone calls. It doesn't have to be a complex process. There are programs in place by certain providers like Spectrum, Frontier, on the telephone, which could screen and block incoming calls, or our senior could just let the calls go to the answering machine, and they'll determine by playing back the message if this is something sounding valid or something they're really interested in, and otherwise just delete that message. And lo and behold, you're not a victim. Secondly, there are still many scams perpetuated by door-to-door sales. And the line they use frequently is, we're in the area, we're working on so-and-so around the corner, you know, Mrs. So-and-so. We're here today, we have a special, here's my tablet, you know, we could sign you up for this. You know, today, it's a special because we're here. Well, don't open the door. A lot of these salespeople are fresh out of sales training. They're super aggressively geared to come into the house. They'll sit there for an hour or 2 hours to wear the senior out, and at which point the senior is just happy to sign their name just to get this guy to leave. Well, the downside to that is now they're stuck with a contract. So, two things: screening the calls and not opening the door. Next.
Okay, and Jay, you have like a
Yes.
minute left.
Okay. All right. We can skip that one.
Okay.
Okay. Donna Moses spoke of the romance scam. We've seen it. I had one in Lakeland, $100,000. She came in with a shopping bag of wire transfers and gift cards, and the light bulb finally went on after $100,000, but that's a little late. So we'll next. Social Security doesn't call. The federal agencies will send letters. They don't generally knock on your door. You're in trouble if they do, but generally they'll send you a letter by traditional U.S. mail. Next. Okay, plea for help. This is the grandma calling Tijuana. Grandma, I've been arrested. And we know of that. So next. Tech support. Microsoft and Apple don't have time to call Mrs. Jones to tell her that she needs a new operating system. That's not legitimate. Never is. Did you fail to pay the IRS? If you don't get a letter, it's a scam. It's a scam. Next. Utility scam. I was potentially scammed almost myself. I'm in Tampa. Tico is the electric company. 20 minutes to 5 on a Friday afternoon. They call, and for some reason, you've been debiting the payment of your bills. You're 3 months behind. It's 20 minutes to 5. We need a credit card because that card number has changed. It's been rejected, or your power will be shut off. So my wife was in the background and she said, "That's fine. I'll call Tico directly." And I heard click. So, my wife did a wonderful thing there, shutting it down. Jury duty. This was in Tampa also, that you need to go to Walmart and get gift cards because you didn't show up for jury duty. And your penalty is that you need to send us gift cards. Well, they could be offshore somewhere in Nigeria, the Caribbean, who knows? That's not legitimate. Next. Charities by telephone. We advocate for any seniors who are seeking to give. Go on to charitynavigator.org, and that will give you a complete listing of the potential charities that you're seeking to give to. It will tell a breakdown of the administrative costs and how long they've been in business and what their focus is. So that could help to legitimize and prevent a scam by checking that site. Social media, what you see is not always what you get. That was discussed previously. Things can be manipulated. Timeshares and vacation deals. The Orlando Office of the Attorney General has a separate division just set aside for timeshares, and you can understand why, because there's such a prevalence in Orlando of international travelers with timeshares. They were very, very popular. Now we still have people who have hung on with their timeshares and trying to get out of those yearly, even if they don't use the timeshare. So that's another scam. Next. Okay. Medicare fraud, we do get reports of billing issues, the back braces, genetic testing. We have, and because I'm with SMP and Shine at PSA 6, I've trained our area for seniors versus crime. When we get these cases, that most of them will be sent back to the corresponding PSA to SMP for them to work the potential Medicare fraud issue. Okay, so in partnership, we're making sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So if we in Seniors versus Crime get Medicare fraud, we make sure it's being dealt with properly. Next. Caller ID can be spoofed, meaning just very simply, you can make it say whatever you want. You could put on a 202 area code for Washington, D.C. and say this is the Internal Revenue. And that's what they play into, trying to enable some fear by making it represent something in particular. Don't trust the caller ID, of course. Next. Gift cards. Donna spoke quite a bit about this, but gift cards are tied in with many, many scams. When I was in U.S. Customs, they had people representing themselves as customs and saying that you have a penalty for X, Y, and Z. You need to pay by a gift card. Well, it's absolutely ridiculous, but they'll try anything. Okay, so I hope I've enlightened everyone, but if any questions do come out at a later point, 2 ways to get a hold of us. We have an 800 telephone number. You just leave your name, telephone number, and someone will get back with you. Okay, that's monitored 7 days a week. Secondly, on our Seniors versus Crime website, you can file directly an online complaint, and you can also file directly on the Florida Attorney General's website, which will end up coming back to us as well. So let's tame the bad guys. But you know, all of us have a part in it, and by taking some prudent steps, we hope to mitigate and prevent some of these things from happening in the first place. But we're here to help should it occur. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Jay,
Yep.
for sharing that information with us. So now we're gonna move to our Q&A session. We have about 15 minutes left. So I know that Patricia and a few others have been monitoring the chat for me for questions. So I'm just gonna turn it over to Patricia, and she can go ahead and read our questions out loud. And speakers, please feel free to answer.
And I do see that someone has raised their hand, but we do ask you to put your question in the chat, please.
Yes, please put the question.
One of the questions, and the person asked about referrals from another source. Their organization receives referrals, and it appears from the information on the referral that a report to APS should have been done, but they're not sure if it has been. Should they go ahead and contact APS themselves if they have enough information to do so?
Yes, ma'am. Any reports that are called in, even if you have like the example of the EMT, if you feel that that's person did not call it in, absolutely call it in. If it's the same information, it will come in as a supplemental, which means that the same information is being relayed to the department. If it's new information, it'll be added as an addition. So definitely call. That is no problem at all.
And will you give us that number one more time?
It's 1-800-96-ABUSE. I believe it is in the chat. Yeah.
1-800-962-2873. And yes, it is in the chat. We did put in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's other ways of submitting it by the web and by TDD.
Thank you. Donna, this question is for you. Is there a list of examples such as that you have provided so that people can use it to talk with their family members about potential scams and try to convince them that they're being scammed?
So I don't have it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the stories you told were so compelling.
Yeah, so I don't have any stories written out, right? And I've been thinking about that a lot, and that's why I try to get on these type of meetings, and even we go out and speak in various communities and stuff to try to actually tell the stories. But we are considering putting together some information with the stories so people can understand what the members are being coached to say and what they're being told to say, whether they're being threatened, and hopefully that's going to help, you know, and how the money's moving.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jay, we had several
Yes.
questions
Thank
about
you.
seniors versus crime.
Okay.
What is
Sure.
the criteria for volunteering for seniors versus crime?
Okay, well, what we're looking for is a willingness to serve your fellow seniors, give back, and we're looking for a minimum of 4 hours a week. And the reason for that is that most of our offices are open at least one day a week, let's say from 9 to 1. And, you know, we need, through the training and everything else, we would need somebody at least that amount of time. So all the training is OJT and mentorship. So we'll bring everybody up to speed and take all the skills that they're willing to give us, and we'll appreciate anybody coming on board.
Okay. And can someone volunteer from home?
Yes, I did not cover that point. I left that out, but that was what enabled us to continue operations during the pandemic. Much like every other industry out there, We use technology. We're still doing it. Some folks are kind of a hybrid model where they're working in the office somewhat and at home. So much can be accomplished at home. We have a telephone platform on your personal cell phone, which allows you to call out as though you're sitting in an office and identifies as Seniors versus Crime. So we provide equipment if necessary and the telephone platform. So yeah, we're happy to have any
And
volunteers.
can all the training be done from home as well?
We would like the initial interview and first sessions to be in the office. Um, Zoom is great, but it's a little better for the initial stages of the OJT because we have cases and everything else. But we can work around that, so we're flexible.
Okay. And where does someone find an application?
They can go right on the Seniors vs Crime website, and there's a blue button that says volunteer.
Okay. And the OJT is on the job training, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you mind putting that website in the chat where someone can access the volunteer application?
Okay, sure.
And then I've been asked, is there a Seniors versus Crime office in Jacksonville or Duval County?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, there
Okay.
is. I interface with the other 4 regions, so reach out and try the local website. There's locations of each office, phone numbers, email, and such. But if you hit a roadblock of any sort, you could contact me and I can try to help.
Now, the seniors in Seniors versus Crime refers to those who are doing the helping, the
Yes.
sleuths.
Yes, we are the
So-
seniors.
Seniors versus Crime can help anyone regardless of their age. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
As you could probably imagine, we being under the Attorney General, we cannot discriminate. So anyone coming through the door, of course, if it's a minor, we'd want them to have their parent there. But regardless of age, we'll do our best to take a look at the issue and try to help.
And Jay, if you can put your contact information in the chat box, someone is wanting you to come and speak to their group.
Okay.
And I had another question for Ivonne. And let me find that. Ivonne, what is your caseload or the average caseload for an investigator, and about how many complaints are received per month?
I have to say it depends on the area that's being covered. For the Suncoast area, Pinellas County has the highest intake of reports, which just last week was 48 in a week. But that's just Pinellas County. Sometimes we will find like it might bounce off into Hillsborough County tomorrow. So it depends. The average caseload at this time in Pasco and Pinellas County for today only is about 8 cases. In Hillsborough, maybe the Fort Myers area, Sarasota might be a little bit higher, maybe about 20 due to staff. Basically, we don't have enough investigators, but that is the average caseload. Our whole purpose in investigation is to go into a home or to a facility, find the evidence quickly, get what we need to get, and come back, because we'll have another report right behind us. So it has to be quick and with purpose. So we try to maintain those caseloads low.
It is a good thing that people are reporting. It is a sad thing that there are cases that have to be reported.
Yes, ma'am.
And this next question is for Donna. Donna, you talked about victims being victimized by other victims, so that the money was being laundered victim to victim. Is there a point at which that person, because they are willingly writing checks and willingly participating in this activity, could be investigated criminally as a money mule?
Yes. So when so the victims aren't really victimizing the victims, right? They're just, they don't know that the other person is victim.
Right.
So example is the lady that wrote all the checks and sent out to
Mhm.
4 different people. Again, she was sending those because she believed that they were attorneys that were helping her pay taxes, or it was someone from the IRS that was going to help her, whatever it may be, right? So those people, they received the money from her thinking that they were getting it from, again, whether it was an online boyfriend's business partner or from someone that was going to help them with their taxes. So the money's going victim to victim, right?
Mhm.
But yes, there are cases that I have had where persons just like herself, or other cases that I've had where we've had conversations and told members. I mean, I've actually told people, if you continue to participate, you could become a victim and no longer a suspect, right? To try to get them to really understand what's going on. But yes, there are people that are willingly participating, and if they do not heed the warnings of a financial institution or law enforcement or whomever has been talking to them, yes, they can be prosecuted as a money mule. That has happened. Does that answer the question?
That is an important thing to know, because
Right.
what people are telling you,
Right.
and it can keep you out of trouble.
Absolutely.
That is the last question that I see in the chat. If I missed any, please let me know. But I think we covered them all. We do have about 4 minutes left in our meeting, so if anyone does have another question, please pop it in the chat quickly.
I thought I did see one more question, Patricia. I think this might go to Ivonne. The person asked, should we call in an abuse report if we are being informed of issues a secondhand party and didn't witness or hear about the issues firsthand?
It doesn't, as long as you have the name of the victim,
Mhm.
an address where we can go to, we will go and respond to the home and verify the information. So it could be that you might be the person to save that victim. We don't know. So we always encourage, make the call. We'll go out there and find out what's true or not true, and then see if they need to have some help. Absolutely make those calls.
Okay. I think that's all the questions that I saw as well, Patricia. Wait, I saw another one. Are there any resources for seniors? For seniors who've been a victim of mortgage refinancing scams?
Alexandra,
Uh-huh.
we have encountered those cases, those issues. We can and do reach out to just about anybody when cases are brought to our attention. There are like 2 limitations of things that we don't handle. We would not actually pursue a government entity. If you have an issue with the governor's office or something like that, secondary to that, we would not go and work a case like malpractice, medical malpractice, or something like that. That would be steered to Keypro and different things. So we pretty much reach out to anybody as the information develops. If there's a basis for this case and then the issues are defined, we could reach out to anybody, including financial institutions. We are able in many cases to send a letter directly to the CEO of large or small companies on the Attorney General's letterhead. So, of course, we've done our due diligence, done the research, and we have a belief that there's a problem causing, you know, this case, and then we reach out appropriately. So.
Okay. Thank you for answering that, Jay.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any further questions for the speakers, again, you all will get this presentation in PDF form afterwards. So you'll have everyone's contact information if you need to reach out to them separate from this event. So as always, we refer people to the Elder Abuse Hotline. That number is available, and then also included will be the contact information for all the PSAs who have been involved in the planning of this presentation. So thank you to everyone again for attending. Thank you to our speakers for your informative presentations. And that is all that we have today.